I was a Republican until 16. A month after Donald Trump got elected, I left the party. I wasn't very political. See, when you grow up in the white evangelical church, something I learned is it is the largest form of indoctrination in this country. They tell you that abortion is the only issue that matters. You're pro-life. Now let's look at this pro-life, okay? So once the woman gives birth, you don't care if it's murdered by a gun in a school, a shopping mall, a movie theater, a street. You don't care if the life is beaten almost to death on January 6th. You don't care if the president rapes the woman. You don't care if the president defends child molesters and their lives. You don't care about the women that are dying of sepsis in Texas. A 56% increase rate of sepsis that women are dying. You don't care about the 14 million kids that go to school hungry every day. You don't care about the 6 million that lost their health care. You don't care about the 2/3 of this country that live paycheck to paycheck. You don't care about life at all. But that one question that Republicans ask every 4 years is exactly the reason that you're not people of faith, that you're not Christians, that you're modern day Pharisees. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Me, 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 me. Now, if you call yourself a person of faith, and the greatest commandment is to love thy neighbor as thyself, how can you only vote for yourself and tell your other neighbors, give them the middle fingers? Not, are your parents better off? Not, are your friends better off? Not, are your neighbors better off? Not, is America better off? Are you better off? And you say, yeah, I got money. And there it is. You're supposed to build your wealth in heaven where moth and rust can't get to them. But what do you vote for? I got money. Yeah, Donald Trump rapes women and defends child molesters and causes an insurrection, but I'm going to get money. And that's it. That's why you're not Christians. That's why you're not people of faith. Because you worship worldly wealth. Just like the story of the rich man that came up to Jesus and says, how can I follow you? And he says, it's very simple. Give away all your earthly wealth and follow me. And the rich man put his head away and is never heard from again in the Bible. That is what MAGA is. It's money, 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 money. About a year ago, I was delivering beds with somebody to children that sleep on the floor. It's called Sleep in Heavenly Peace. And I was talking to one of these Pharisees, mediocre white men with the micro penis, the typical MAGA supporter. And I'm like, how could you vote for him when he raped Jean Carroll? He said, yeah, that was really bad. I don't agree with that. And he said something that has never left my mind. And he said, but he gave me the Supreme Court justices that I wanted because I'm against abortion. Just think about that. So he acknowledged that he knew that Donald Trump was a rapist, but he accepted it because he was told by the evangelical church that abortion is the worst sin. Just think about how morally bankrupt as a human being you have to be to vote for a rapist. So ironically, he would vote for Donald Trump, but if he got E. Jean Carroll pregnant, God forbid, he would force her to have the baby and force her to live with that trauma. That's the kind of people that Christian nationalists are. They don't care about anybody but themselves. I voted for Harris in the last election. You know why? Because she was going to fight for universal health care. She was going to raise minimum wage. She was going to help people get out of student loans. She was going to tax the crap out of rich people. I voted for my fellow Americans. I loved my neighbor as thyself. And you know what? My taxes were going to go up. And that's the difference between a person of faith and a MAGA supporter, a fake Christian. I voted for the betterment of society. You only vote for the benefit of yourselves. And you will vote for the benefit of yourself at the expense of every other American. The original MAGA 2,000 years ago was called the Sanhedrin. They justified murdering Jesus in the name of God. And when given a chance to release Jesus, the radical left Democrat who fed people, gave people water, cured people, talked about compassion and grace and empathy, who did they choose when they were given a choice? They chose Barabbas, the man that was an insurrectionist and murdered Christians. And in 16, 20, and 24, who did these Pharisees vote for again with red hats? Trump. Trump, Trump. Barabbas, Barabbas, Barabbas. He is Barabbas, the modern day Barabbas. It's about control. It's about white supremacy and forcing people to live by their moral code. How can you call yourself a Christian and watch January 6th and say, yeah, that's my guy because he promised me money? You're not Christians. You're Pharisees, religious hypocrites. And the irony is, the least Christ-like people in this country have crosses in their Bibles and Bible verses and force it down your throats. Do you want to know why? Because by your fruits shall you be judged. Their fruits are rotten. Their walk doesn't reflect what their talk backs up. Faith without works. So they have to shove it in your face. And who do they worship? A racist podcaster who said dead Americans, let me say it again, dead Americans is worth the cost of owning a piece of metal. How do you think that went for him on Judgment Day? Well, Jesus, I'm ready to go home. Open the gates. Whoa, wait a minute, podcaster. No. You did nothing about gun violence. Nothing at all. You supported a man that sexually assaults women. You could go down with Jeffrey Epstein. That's where you belong. But God, I talked about transgenders in college sports and a man and a woman in a bathroom. You know what's funny about that? I was in Europe last week. Almost every bathroom in Germany, London, Holland or the Netherlands, and France had bathrooms with men and women together in them. Not a damn thing from anybody. Nobody had an issue with it because it's done all over the world, but not here. It has to be a culture war. We have to make white people upset and grievanced about something so you can be the victim. This is why I started doing this about 2 years ago. If you're a person of faith, remember that during the time of Moses, God used Pharaoh and he hardened his heart to serve his will, just like he's using Trump like a puppet to expose the moral rot within his church. Every single person with the red hat, Make America White Again, that left their church because their pastor wouldn't say the name of a racist podcaster, good. Leave God's church because you were never there for God. You were there for white Christian nationalism. And they can't even have critical thinking because it's taken away in the white church. 40,000 people die every year. Think about that. Over the last 5 years, 200,000 people have died from gun violence. And nothing from pro-life people. But a moment, a racist podcaster who demanded that Joe Biden get the death penalty. Oh, we're going to put him on an airplane and we're going to worship him like Jesus. And we're going to have a Nazi-style rally. And his wife is going to sell freedom merchandise and make money. More money, money, money. And we're going to grift off the white people. We're going to name streets after him and bills after him and days after him. Because you worship the creation, not the creator. Jesus literally put the guard's ear back on and said, he who lived by the sword shall die by the sword. He who lives by the gun shall die by the gun. Every single one of you that walks around with your gold crosses, that cares more about a piece of metal than saving one life of a child in a school, you're all going to spend a lot of time with Jeffrey Dahmer, and Judgment Day is not going to be good for you. So I hope you enjoy a piece of metal. You know what the funny thing is? I own a 6 Sauer P320. But you know what? Here's the difference. Hypothetically, if some bill came along or some measure where we said, you know what? It's really time that we changed society. We really have to get rid of gun violence. And we would like to ask for every American to turn in your guns so we can really minimize gun violence. Now, mine is safely secured, okay? But you know what I would do? I would walk barefoot through broken glass. If I was promised one child would be saved from me doing that, even though I know it would never be used in a bad way. Because that's the kind of person that I want to be. That's the kind of way I live. That's the faith that I want. Love thy neighbor as thyself. That's why I left the Republican Party, because they're selfish pricks. They serve an antichrist. They love guns. And when I was in Europe, they don't have guns. The police officers in London didn't even have guns on their hips. Nobody's walking around with M16s. They have more bikes than people in Amsterdam. Here we have more guns. And 40,000 people die, but, you know, you're pro-life. Yeah. And that's the other lie, is the Second Amendment is a God-given right. Really? Did God sign the Constitution or write the Second Amendment? Maybe I missed it. What day was that? What does his signature look like? I don't know. What was he wearing when he signed it? It wasn't a God-given right. It was written by racist slave owners. But that's the indoctrination of the church. And I'll leave you with this. And before you start saying, the church, we got to put Bibles in there, the person you voted for had sex with a porn star with the Bible. We have children that are molested in the Catholic Church. Thousands of them. The Bible didn't save them in the church. They were in a church. Dozens and hundreds of women were assaulted at the Baptist church. The Bible in the Baptist church didn't stop them there. But in this great Christian nation, we literally hung black people from trees because, praise Jesus, nobody's perfect. This has never been a Christian nation, and it never should be a Christian nation. If this is a Christian nation, then I want nothing to do with Christianity, because the way that we've treated anybody that's not white, it's despicable and it's deplorable. And it's disgusting. And for everyone that says, Paul, if you don't love America, why don't you leave? I criticize America because it's my home. My family lives here. Because I love this country. But I'm going to be damned if I'm not going to criticize it. It is not the greatest country in the world. You do not have kids going to school doing active shooter drills and say, we're the best because we got guns. Well, we got 800,000 people living on the street. Yeah, what a great country. Yeah. Wow. While we're bombing schools in Iran and sitting by and funding Israel while they murder 80,000 people. What? We're so pro-life. While a rapist is president. Oh, so pro-life. Yeah, so pro-life. But can you tell me what a man and a woman is? I don't care. I don't care what a man and a woman is. That's why I left the party. Because it has nothing to do with faith or Christianity or Jesus or God. It is white supremacy and pure and unadulterated hypocrisy. Look at Jimmy Kimmel. Can you believe he said that? Okay, let's just say he told a bad joke. The president blew up a school and murdered 170 or 150 little girls. Nothing from you. He raped women. You said nothing. He caused an insurrection. You said nothing. He cheats on his wife with a porn star because of marriages between one man and one woman. You say nothing. He asked for the execution of 5 black men. You say nothing. He's a convicted felon. You say nothing. He makes fun of disabled people. You say nothing. You say nothing. You say nothing. You say nothing. Because the white man can do no wrong, because he is your God. Donald Trump is not a Christian. He is an antichrist. Blasphemy of the Holy Spirit is the only unforgivable sin. And every single one of you with your red hats that worship Donald Trump more than God, You're all going to spend a lot of time with Jeffrey Dahmer and Benito Mussolini and Jeffrey Epstein. You do not serve the God of Abraham. You are nothing more than modern day Pharisees. That's why I left the party, because it had nothing to do with life or God or faith. It has to do with control. Have a good day.